Tom Duty, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Duty and a Google search for my site. Illuminati, aka Crunchberry, aka Fruity Berry, has returned for another installment of an audiobook. And he writes, have you ever pondered the carnage you have left in regards to relationships over the past few decades? There is one common denominator, you. Your rambling blog is atrocious and your articulation horrible for an educated individual. May I suggest a full psychiatric evaluation? Illuminati. So first of all, my claim that this man is seeking a audiobook and comes to my blog for that purpose is my fabrication. He and I have no off-blog agreement. I will comment, have I ever pondered the carnage of relationships over the past decades? The answer is not only have I pondered it, I've written about it. I have done audio about it. In fact, very specifically, this post that he's commenting on is called Prohibition. Yesterday was the century anniversary of 100-year anniversary of the start of Prohibition, and it triggered my mind to a friend I believe is an alcoholic, and so I wrote something about it and kind of hid the fact that who I was writing about. And now my blog reading is relatively small, so I still have the ability to detect high level of interest from people I know, and this blog post without question was read in a quarter, in 4 months, in three months. This will probably be my most read blog post, and it also triggered a comment from this Illuminati, Crunchberry, Fruity Berry. So in that post, commenting yesterday on, inspired by the prohibition of my alcoholic friend, when this relationship with that friend severed, it ended up in a very epic, emotional way, and I very quickly recorded my reaction in a series of YouTube audios. It was terribly upsetting to me. I remember it was right before my mother's 90th birthday, and I was going to visit family. It was an emotional time for me, and I recorded my reaction quickly, and I've also listened to that recording multiple times. So in general, I write about this stuff, I blog about this stuff all the time, and very specifically, this relationship, have I ever pondered the carnage I've left in the relationship for the past few decades? I've pondered it, I've written about it, I've recorded about it, and then I've listened to what I recorded about it. So I don't know if this guy is seeking answers, but the simple answer to the first question is yes, there's a common denominator, you. Of course there is. These are my relationships that end up in trouble, and I'm the common because they're my relationship. This is self-evident. My rambling is atrocious. I don't really know why. If my writing is atrocious, why is he a reader? And my articulation horrible for an educated individual. I don't know if he's insulting. I mean, in a grammar sense, in a vocabulary sense, in the ability to articulate oneself. This guy is better than I am, at least as good, or we're tied. But his vocabulary is certainly larger than mine. So if he's insulting my writing, that's fine. But again, my writing is atrocious and my articulation horrible. Again, why is he a reader? I don't need him to answer that, and I'm not asking it. And if he decides to answer that question, I don't give a shit. He's a reader because he's a reader. It doesn't matter. But there is conspicuous conflict in insulting, I don't know, if I read it, if I thought a particular writer, Hemingway, was horrible, and I read in every page I was criticizing his writing in my head, but then I kept plowing through all of his books, it would say something about me. It says nothing about Hemingway. Now, in this thing, I'm comparing myself to Hemingway, which is ridiculous, but anyways, the question remains, if my blog is atrocious, my articulation horrible, why is he a reader? Again, rhetorical question, not intended to be answered, and may suggest full psychiatric evaluation. Sure, I've had 100 of them. So he can suggest all he wants. And I will continue to comment. Again, my blog is manageable. I have the ability to comment on, I think, everything. I get behind on occasion, but over the course of a few days, I always catch up. This one I'm getting to promptly. And he signs this Illuminati, which I don't really know what that means. I think in today's, it basically associates him, which is consistent with what I've read, is that it's an extreme right, politically thinking, conservative-minded person. And Illuminati is kind of a code word. That's how I understand Illuminati in modern context, which I think is how he's using it. I think Illuminati has some history and goes back to something that's on the United States dollar bill. Anyways, in his context, I think it just means he's a conservative. So that's my reaction to this post. I just am pleased at the attention this post has gotten. This friend, it's like the elephant in the living room. He's an alcoholic, does everyone know? And nobody's saying it. All of a sudden, I see this friend for a night, and it involves drinking. And literally at 3 o'clock in the morning, we took one friend home to his hotel room and took him in a luggage cart because he couldn't walk. And he wasn't unconscious, but that friend went to bed, passed out on the bed, and then we left and went out for another drink. I got home, and the bakery in my neighborhood was, the fact that we needed to go out for another drink was just unimaginable to me. So the evidence that this friend of mine is an alcoholic is abundant, and it's just kind of bothered me that, nobody was talking about it. So I wrote about it, and my reads on that post are just, 10 times higher than what I would expect just from my ordinary ramblings. So it's clearly that some people were interested in what I wrote about, and it's also clear to me that some of those people, unlike this guy, unlike Crunchberry, Fruity Berry, or Illuminati, unlike this guy, these people who are reading, most of the people who are reading this about my alcoholic friend, these people know me. And I also mentioned 3 other people in that post, and I did it kind of coded by the last 4 digits of their phone number. So I have a feeling that if it hasn't happened already, it will happen, that people will read it and not only realize who I'm writing about, in addition to that, they'll realize that they're one of the numbers in the subject. And I've already talked to a friend who knows what I wrote, and it certainly didn't set that relationship back at all. It's something we struggle with, to watch this happen to a friend. So anyways, on a really significant topic for me, Crunchberry, Fruity Berry, again, recycles things from my blog and asks me if I thought about it, which in itself is kind of a dumb question. Of course I have. I've thought about it. I wrote about it. How much more do you want me to think about it? Have I had a